Hello, today in this video I'm going to show you how to put your first stencil layer onto paper. So the things you're going to need are a magazine. I'll turn this so you can see. You're going to need a magazine that you're using as a painter's palette. The amount of paint that you put on should not be bigger than the size of a $50, okay? If they're taking up the whole page, you're wasting paint and it's going to get really messy. Okay, you're also gonna need a foam brush. We have these, they're like near where all of the other materials are that are needed. You need a foam brush. You're gonna need your stencil layer, number 1, which is the big outside cut image of who you're doing. And you're also gonna need some paper towel and the white paper that's cut in the back. So it's cut to the same size as your stencil layer. That's really important. If you have a bigger sheet of paper, you're not gonna be able to line up your stencil on the paper. So here's step 1. You're gonna grab a magazine. You are gonna use the magazine as a paint palette. Put the paint onto the magazine and no bigger than about this size of paint that you're gonna use. I have this nice sheet that you can look at. Okay, once you get the paint on the magazine, you come back to your seat and you grab newsprint, because that should be down on the tables. If it's not, you need to have newsprint down so that when you paint, it doesn't get really messy. Then you're gonna take your white paper and your stencil layer number 1 and line up the corners. If you don't line up the edges, your stencil will be off. You're gonna have all of this white space over here. You don't want that. You want to line up the edges of your stencil. And let's say you can tell the stencil is not the same exact size as the paper, so I'm going to choose to line up my top 2 corners. And if I do that, every print, it will be perfect. Okay, so I lined up my stencil and the paper underneath. I'm going to hold that down and then I'm going to mix my colors. I'm going to do like an orange color, so I'm using yellow and red, and I'm mixing on my magazine. The best way to mix is to go back and forth. Okay. You should definitely have enough paint on the sponge brush. It really soaks in, okay? So all this paint got soaked up. If your brush is dripping, it is way too much paint, okay? So if you need to dab a little bit, you can. Now I'm gonna use the sponge brush to apply paint. And I don't want to really jam it underneath my stencil. If I do that, my layer will be kind of messy on the edges. And just make sure that you support, like if I'm painting near one side, I am holding the paper down so that a lot of paint doesn't get stuck in between there, okay? Holding it down, painting this orange color. Okay, once I'm finished, see how much paint the sponge brush held? It's a lot in there, okay? And then once I'm done, I'm gonna peel back the stencil layer and pop that off, and now I have my image printed on my paper, okay? You can see here, I pushed a bit with my brush and the stencil got all messy. Now let's flip this over. If your stencil has paint on the back, you gotta grab a paper towel and wipe that off, so the next time we put it down on paper, let's see if I flip this over, and you can see I put it down on the paper and I lined it up. I'm already gonna get paint. If I haven't wiped it off, paint is gonna go onto the paper already, right? Because I didn't wipe off the back, all right? And so you're gonna do this 4 times with 4 different colors with your first stencil layer.